Come on in, guys. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about the 5 greatest and 5 worst newbie casts of all time. Survivor's had some pretty incredible casts throughout the years. You know, those times where the stars aligned to put all the right people in the right location in the right time to create an absolutely iconic group of survivors. And then there's those times where the stars were all out of whack, Neptune was way over here, Scorpio was definitely not rising, and you're just like, this is the group of people I have to watch for the next 14 weeks. So let's talk great and awful casts. I'll be counting down the 5 best and 5 worst all-newbie casts of all time. And for the record, I will be including casts that were majority newbie here, so captain seasons are eligible, but half newbie, half returnee seasons aren't. Because let's be real, if a cast is 90% newbies, it's a newbie cast. And that worst list would be a whole lot tougher to put together without captain seasons. Cut me a break, y'all. So what makes a good cast? A great Survivor cast is full of dynamic, interesting people with different lived experiences, representing a variety of demographics who came to play Survivor. If there's a theme, the players should successfully reflect that theme. Generally, they should be positive, proactive people in their lives and in the game. There should be like a 2-dud maximum. A bad cast is the opposite of all that, a group of people who for the most part don't pop on TV, don't reflect a wide variety of experiences, who don't act with agency, and who in some cases don't even seem to know they're on a game show for $1 million. To start off, let's list my honorable mentions. Or dishonorable mentions in this case. My runner-up for worst newbie cast is the cast of Survivor Worlds Apart. This cast is actually kind of exciting on paper, but in practice falls apart almost instantly. There are a lot of castaways whose personalities just failed to pop on the beach. And given that these people represented white collar, blue collar, and no collar respectively, some of the casting choices are just kinda weird. Nothing about Nina screams no collar to me. Combine that with a lot of other castaways who are just overwhelmingly negative, and you have a cast that is just a big ol' stanky dark cloud. On the other side of the coin, my runner-up for best cast is the cast of Survivor Australia. Returnees don't dictate if a cast is good or not, but there's a reason that half this cast have been brought back to play again. Kucha and Ogakor are both so iconic, full of heroes we love to love and villains we love to hate. Colby, Tina, Elizabeth, Roger, Kimmy, Jerry, and Alicia are all such great casting, it's hard to believe all these Survivor legends came from the same original season. Seriously, there's nary a dud in the cast. And before you say Nick, well, okay, I'll concede that point. Alrighty, honorable mentions mentioned. Let's move on to the 5 best and worst newbie casts in Survivor history. The 5th worst newbie cast is the cast of Ghost Island, whose majority early 20s cast looks like a cast plucked straight out of Survivor's own early 20s seasons. Look, you know you've got a problem when only 6 people on the cast are 30 and over, and the oldest person in the game is in their early 40s. This cast just did not have a lot of life experience, and I think that led to a lot of the Navidi strong sentiment and the blind following of Dom, Wendell, and Kellen. It also doesn't help that the pre-merge was a complete wood chipper for the movers and shakers in the game, literally all of whom would have brought some much-needed agency and given some life to the merge. Perhaps it was by design, but most of Ghost Island's cast just takes a backseat to the Ghost Island theme, and that does not a good cast make. The 5th best newbie cast ever is the cast of Survivor Samoa. This may be my hottest take on this list, but Samoa is a truly incredible newbie cast, and the only person who I would completely remove is Ben. The rest of Foa is pitch perfect, with the Foa 4 as obvious standouts, but even early boots like Betsy, Liz, and Marisa are really entertaining in their brief time on the island. And Galoo is one of Survivor's greatest all-time train wrecks. You've got to love a group of people who enter a merge 8-4 and still manage to completely whiff it. But come on, Eric, Danger Dave, Laura, Shambo, Fincher, even though we barely even got to see Galoo, these people are still really memorable. Ultimately, I think this cast was just done dirty by the editing, which turned the season into a tale of two Russells, then a tale of one Russell. It's a shame Survivor didn't let one of their greatest all-time casts shine while they had them there. The fourth worst newbie cast in history is the cast of Redemption Island, composed of 16 newbies and Boston Rob and Russell. Like I said, majority newbie casts count because you just can't do a worst cast list without Redemption Island. They're on this list largely due to Ometepe, a tribe where everyone except Franny and Christina was ready, willing, and able to be completely steamrolled. Even Andrea, who became much better and much more interesting later on, completely pledges fealty to Rob along with Grant, Ashley, Natalie, and Philip. Zapatera's better, and the only person I'd categorize as a complete miss is Krista. Stephanie's chaotic evil gameplay injects some juice into the tribe, but once she's gone, the tribe stock dips quite a bit as the Majority Alliance was a collective that just really didn't pop off the screen. And I say that as like the only Zapatera defender on the internet. I may be the world's only Zapatera fan. Not even Zapatera like Zapatera. But a benign Zapatera majority and a bland Ometepe majority, playing for Rob to win makes this one of the worst casts ever assembled. The fourth best newbie cast ever is the cast of Survivor China. Pound for pound, this cast is one of the best ever, and there's a lot of pounds on this cast. Let's start with Fei Long, one of Survivor's greatest all-time tribes in terms of entertainment value. James is a one-liner machine, and Courtney's an even better one-liner machine.
I seem to be sort of marooned in a land of flight attendants and Sunday school teachers.
Even doe-eyed, blurry-bottomed Amanda, probably Fei Long's weakest member on the entertainment front, was still interesting enough to get brought back 2 additional times. And of course, we can't not mention Todd, a snarky villain who, in a perfect world, would have been the blueprint for superfan casting for years. Then there's Jean Hu, a tribe that would be more grounded in reality if not for Crazy Dave, a man on the absolute brink of sanity. The Majority Alliance over here is less interesting than Fei Long for sure, but they all just seem like such pleasant people you can't help but want to hang out with them. Unless you're Aaron. Then you probably don't want to hang out with them. The third worst newbie cast is the cast of Survivor South Pacific. Again, a cast on a captain season, this time with Survivor luminaries Coach and Ozzy. On the whole, these newbies are probably a better group of players than the newbies on Redemption Island, but I just find them much less likable as a whole. This cast suffers from a serious rootability problem, where pretty much everyone tops out at mildly likable at best. Upolu is more likable than Savai, I guess, because, hey, at least you have Sophie, Albert, and Christine, but that's not saying much. On Savai, I'll admit a soft spot for Jim, who I think would have recklessly overplayed himself out of the game in incredible fashion if Savai took control at the merge. And Cochran and Dawn are both likable people, sure. But the rest of the cast just doesn't do it for me, and their overwhelming negativity or invisibility land them right here. The third best newbie cast in the history of Survivor is the cast of Survivor David vs. Goliath. Here is proof that Survivor still has it when it comes to casting. There is simply not a dud in the bunch. There's a lot to love here, but what I love most about this cast is their complete and unabashed authenticity. With the David vs. Goliath theme, it would have been really easy for Survivor to cast total stereotypes, or people who want to play heightened caricatures of themselves. But instead, we get the realest cast in ages. This is exemplified no better than by John, a pro wrestler who easily could have leaned into the role of Goliath heel, and no one would have blamed him. Instead, we get a portrait of a really sensitive and intelligent social player.
So, the journey for me in this game, and the reason I'm here isn't necessarily to figure out if John is this Goliath. It's really to figure out who John is.
And same with Christian, perhaps the single greatest casting find in the 30s. And if it's not him, then it's Angelina, who is also on this amazing cast. With David vs. Goliath, Survivor really started doubling down on casting people who are really genuine, refreshing a casting formula that had gotten kind of stale. This trend continued into Island of the Idols, and it's something I hope continues into the 40s and beyond. The second worst newbie cast in Survivor history is the cast of Survivor Thailand. Well, that was a good 4-season streak Survivor had going there in the early days. Iconic cast after iconic cast after iconic cast, and then this. What really brings Thailand down for me is a strong absence of memorable or rootable people. And even then, the few that are memorable aren't rootable. Those that are rootable aren't memorable. Really, only Xi'an and Rob break the mold. But Xi'an's perpetual underdog storyline and Rob's turn from sand skateboarding doofus to lovable dude aren't enough to bring the stock of this cast up more than a few points.
We definitely got all the hot chicks, or most of them. And we definitely got the young, strong guys.
The 5 members of Chewy-gon that make the merge all have some okay moments, I guess, but this is a group of people where a lot of them are just total entertainment vampires, actively sucking the life out of the viewer. Thankfully, this was a one-off, and Survivor casting quickly rebounded in Survivor Amazon, but Thailand remains a rare miss in the early years of the show. The second greatest newbie cast in Survivor history is the cast of Survivor Pearl Islands. Some casts, like Cook Islands, give us a ton of Survivor legends and the rest are window dressing. Some casts, like Pearl Islands, give us a ton of Survivor legends and the rest are great too. I don't have to tell you how wildly entertaining Sandra, Rupert, Johnny Fairplay, Lil, Burton, and Andrew Savage are. These are some of Survivor's most memorable heroes and villains. What's crazy about this cast is even the minor characters are great TV and would probably be stars on a season that wasn't already so stacked. Sean, Trish, Austin, Tijuana, Krista. Even Dara is inadvertently entertaining, whether that's through her completely oblivious nature, unlikely job title, or nigh incoherent southern accent. Out of the gate, this is a cast that played hard, entertained hard, and leaned into and had fun with their season's pirate theme. Reality TV casts don't get better than this. Well, I guess one does. The worst newbie cast in Survivor history is the cast of Survivor One World. On paper and in practice, this cast just doesn't work. Let's start with something that has bothered me for ages. Putting Troyzan and Tarzan on the same season, on the same tribe, just exemplifies the problems with casting in this era. Why? It just seems desperate for drama right out of the gate.
One guy's called Tarzan, and I'm like, he can't be Tarzan. I'm Troyzan. It's like, this is my island, baby.
The heroes of One World aren't that heroic. Most of the villains are completely deplorable, and even the bigger personalities lacked agency and were completely content to swim in Kim's wake. Very rarely does Survivor completely miss the mark, but here they definitely did. Incredibly, they recovered literally right after with the cast of Survivor Philippines, which is generally highly regarded. But One World, well, living proof that you just can't judge a season based off the amount of returnees it has. Seriously, 5 returnees? The greatest all-newbie cast in Survivor history is the cast of Survivor Cagayan. This season, the tribes were divided by brains, brawn, and beauty, so points out of the gate for actually casting people who match the theme well. The Brains and Brawn tribe here are 2 of Survivor's greatest all-time starting tribes. The Brains tribe in particular is a glorious train wreck, one of the best ever, with 6 wildly different personalities that mix like 6 wildly different kinds of oil and water. Chaos Cass is a truly iconic villain, Spencer and Tasha are some of Survivor's greatest underdogs, and Jatia survived a vote hours after destroying her tribe's entire food supply. Enough said. The Brawn tribe, I argue, is even better. This tribe gave us Tony and Sarah, and if that isn't enough for you, there's also Wu and Cliff, both of whom have positive energy that is downright infectious. Even the quitter, Lindsay, delivers. She literally quits because she's so mad at Trish that she's afraid she's going to beat her up. Now that is leaning into your tribe theme. A lot of people like to knock the beauty tribe when talking about this cast, but I'm a staunch defender of them too. Bryce is literally one of the funniest people in Survivor history, Jeffra and Jeremiah are classic old-school Survivor casting, and Morgan's rudeness is hilariously both low-key and high-key at the same time. Put it all together and you have the best cast in Survivor history. Got nothing else for you. To low-key get me high views, like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.